try to help them out, man. It's just like you've got this whole demographic of people that banks won't touch them. They go into the new car store, they get laughed out, right? You're Wells Fargo, you're Chase, you're getting your money at prime from the government, and yet you won't give a loan to these people, right? Like, it's ridiculous.
Today, I'm sitting down with Jeff Watson, owner of Four Seasons Auto, a buy here, pay here dealership that's shaking up subprime car sales. From a small personal loan from his grandmother to a top-rated business, Jeff shares the key to his success and how he's earned one of the highest Google ratings for a buy here, pay here dealer in America. A big thank you to our sponsors for making today's episode possible, Dealer DMV and Car Dealership Guy Recruiting. And now, let's get into the show. Jeff Watson on the CDG podcast. Jeff, welcome.
Hey, what's going on, man? Super excited to be here. Glad you reached out. Like, obviously, I've been following you since you were just a little icon, you know, just a little silhouette back in the day.
I'm still a little icon, my friend. I'm still a little icon.
To your credit, man, what I love about what you do, and this is how you want to start this, but you ask the question that I'm thinking in my head. And I love that about you, because so many like car dealership, car guys on YouTube and podcasts and stuff, it's like, dude, you don't know anything about the industry. You're asking the stupidest question in the world. Nobody needs to know that or wants to know that. But when I'm listening to your stuff, I'm like, I say the question in my head, and then literally you ask the question the very next second. I'm like, dude, he gets it. Like, he gets what operators want to hear.
I appreciate you, man. First of all, that means a lot, number one. Number two, I do try, like, this isn't, you know, I don't just like sit there and like wing it. I think that I really try to engage in a conversation, and I don't always succeed. Like, I try my best. So that's the second thing. Third thing, someone asked me what I think sort of helped me get better at this. And I'm learning every day. I listen to, on the weekends, I actually tend to consume a lot, right? So I'll watch many podcasts, I'll listen, I'll see how other people do it, you know, some of the best.
Yeah. And I think you're so good at it. And I think that's what I'm interested. Like, I'm just curious, right? Like, I was listening to one of yours the other day, and you asked such a tactical question of just straight curiosity. Like, well, what happens if they lose money on that deal? Then what happens? You holding that out of their check? And it's like, that's exactly what I wanted to know. Like, cause you're just yeah. Tactical, man. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into a lot of tactics today, because, as you know, being a good old dealer, the tactics don't, we don't shy away from them, and everything matters. It's in a deal, and incentives and whatnot. So we'll talk all about that. Jeff, you're very unique, and I don't say that lightly, because I just haven't met a independent dealer with your pedigree. So let me put this out for the audience, right? First of all, you're pretty social media savvy, I would say. Just gauging by, you discovered me pretty early, which just tells me that, like, you're engaged, you are informed, you're kind of in tune with the market. Number two is you've had a podcast way longer than I have, the Independent Dealer Podcast, which, you run. We'll talk about that as well, why you got into media and why you even do that. Number three, you're an independent dealer based out of Utah, but, and this is based on my research, you are also buy here, pay here. And dude, you have like a 4.8 rating on Google. So honestly, like, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. It's very rare. And I know many buy here, pay here's, and some of them are, great humans, and some of their operations are not as great as maybe they are, or vice versa. But I was pretty shocked to see that as a buy here, pay here, you have such a high Google rating. And we'll talk about that as well, because I just think that the nature of the buy here, pay here business is it's so conflicting with the consumer. Like, you take vehicles back if they don't pay. It's you. It's not the bank taking it. And so I want to talk about that and how you've been able to kind of thread that needle. But before everything, because this will be a fun conversation, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, who are you? How did you get into this business?
Man, long ride. 2005, I was at college here in Southern Utah, going to Dixie State. And I've always been an entrepreneur, right? I've always been doing stuff. As a kid, I was the lemonade stand kid. So I'm running a pool cleaning business my senior year at college, right? Going through the business program here. And if you've been to Southern Utah, it's 110 in the summer, 115. We've got like that Vegas, Phoenix climate. So I'm out there just sweating over a pool and just frustrated. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. Like, I don't want to work for $1, right? I don't want to have to work to always be out there. So doing some brainstorming my senior year, I said, there's this, my money can work for me, right? Like there's, I can get interest and make money while I sleep. And back then, hard money was just a really big deal in the real estate world, right? '05, just a lot of that, people needing bridge loans, things like that. And I said, well, let me pare this down. I don't got millions to loan. I got a couple 100,000 maybe, right? If I can borrow from my grandma. And I thought, let's do this with auto loans. So I started out just going to any dealership in town, and I'd say, who's your unbankable? Like who is the bank saying no to? I can do that loan. I can charge a respectable interest rate. And then I'll just set up a little PO box, and I run around with my little briefcase and a checkbook, and I would just buy up notes from random dealers and then take payments. That works really, really well until you get to the point of like an '08 recession. You've got dealers that are selling cars that, maybe they shouldn't sell, right? They're like, it's a subprime deal. It's going to Jeff. I don't really care that the engine's not in the right spot or that it's going to break down in a month, right? So the quality control was not there from a car standpoint. So eventually 2009, I say, hey, I got to control it all from start to finish. I got to get a better car. I got to get a good customer, a good interview. That's going to make a more successful loan for me. So in 2009, started the dealership. Been doing buy here, pay here ever since. Probably, written.
Jeff, you launched as a buy here, pay here from day one.
Yeah. We were already financing. So I was already in the finance industry. So I just said, hey, I need to be able to sell the car and control the quality of the car to make my portfolio better. So I didn't come into this from the car side. Like I joke around sometimes.
Got it.
I wish these were refrigerators. Like how much better if it wasn't driving around and exploding, right? Like it would be such an easier thing to finance.
When you say that, like, it just reminds me of the drive time story with Ugly Duckling, right? Before they were drive time, right? They were, what was it called? Like Lincoln Savings and Loan or whatever.
But what do you think?
Right? They were just looking, yeah, exactly. They were just looking to deploy capital. And what's the widget that you can deploy lots of financing capital? It happens to be a vehicle.
It takes a lot of financing capital, that's for sure. So that's what's interesting. So I came at it from a collection standpoint and a financial standpoint, but that's maybe why we're a little bit different here is, I don't want to say not the stereotypical used car dealer, not the stereotypical buy here, pay here dealer, we look at it as like a relationship. I look at it as assets. Like I need this car to go 36 months. I need this customer to be in the car 36 months or more. So we really look at it that way. And that kind of changes things, right? I'm not just selling a car and just rolling it down the road and saying, see you later, right? So it definitely adds a level of investment, mental investment and ownership into every single one of our customers.
Can you give us an overview of the business, right? Like how many units do you sell, revenues, profits? Give us a little overview, whatever you can.
Yeah. So we do anywhere from 40 to 50 cars a month. 80 to 90% of them are in-house financed. We do a handful of outside. Some of the people that graduate from our program, because we report to credit, we're hoping to build their score. And then eventually we can refi them at a bank or a credit union, or maybe sell them another car, have them upgrade. So we do a handful of retail. We are set up, kind of the same way. If you did a great episode with Tiger Oakley, he runs it the right way as well, right? So we're very much down that line. If you want to know how to run a good buy here, pay here, go back, listen to his episode, right? Put a warranty on it, stand behind the car, have a good relationship with the customer, always be in communication, help them fix it, have loaner cars, give them gap forgiveness. So we do all those things to just, try to help them out, man. It's just like you've got this whole demographic of people that banks won't touch them. They go into the new car store, they get laughed out, right? Like you're Wells Fargo, you're Chase, you're getting your money at prime from the government, and yet you won't give a loan to these people, right? Like it's ridiculous. So we step in and try to help and be respectful that they're in a place in their life where they need some help, they need to get back on their feet, and that's what we do.
Jeff, what's your average sales price?
So our average sales price after like amount financed is right around 10,000. So that's typically with like a $1,200 down. That barely covers tax, title, license, but we try to stay. It's definitely creeped up in the last few years. Like everybody knows, we tried to be in the 8,000 average. Now we're more in the 10 to 12 average, which is an affordability issue, as we know, for all people. We run right in that
And then
area.
how do you, I'm curious about a little technical here, but like the accounting side, like how do you account for profit? And I'll tell you what I mean. Like, right, you are the bank and the retailer. So when you make profit, do you make it all on the banking side and then your retailer, or like how do you do that?
I'm going to give it to you straight because I know Tiger, you asked him this question and it was a little bit of a dance, if I remember right. With a related finance company, which is what my bank is, right? I have my dealership and then I have the sister company, which is the related finance company. And that's how most buy here, pay here is set up. You don't have to. What that is it's just a little bit of an income deferral game. So I'll give it to you very tactically. Hopefully I don't lose people. But if I had a $10,000 finance contract with my dealership, I'm going to sell it over to my finance company at a discount, right? Because chances are 20 to 30% of my loans are not going to collect. So I take a 20 to 30% discount on that note when I buy it from the dealership. So yes, technically the dealership makes zero to no money. They're making just enough to cover their expenses and basically break even at the end of the month, right? Now the finance company takes that big receivable and they can defer off that discount and they put it in like future receivables, right? I might collect it, I might not, but I'm not going to pay like it's income, like it's profit until I actually collect that money. So yeah, it's a small accounting movement to help buy here, pay here dealers defer some of that. We still pay it eventually, right? Like eventually that loan will pay out and I'll still eventually pay on that income. But as you're growing or scaling, it's just a great way to not have to have a huge income burden, tax bill at the end of each year.
No, that's invaluable insight. All right. So now here comes that next layer dealer question, which you love. Ready for this one? I'm excited for this one. All right. So how do you compensate your sales manager or GM? I don't know if you have a GM or if you're the GM, but how do you compensate them if you are basically running your retail shop at break even?
Yep. Good question.
How do you incentivize them?
Yes. So my number one guy, my GM, Adrian, he's a rock star. He's been with me 8 years. So his pay plan is a combination of all the above, right? That's what's confusing. So he'll get a percentage of retail sales. So if we send something out to a bank or credit union, he'll get a percentage of gross profit on that. And then the other components are he gets a percentage of the down payment. So I say, hey, I want to incentivize you to get more down. I want to incentivize you to hit every salesman to get more down from that customer, because obviously my cash in deal is one of the most important things I need to be aware of. So if he can get a little bit more down, he gets a little piece of that pie. And then he also gets some little bonuses on back-end products if he sells my warranty, if he sells my reinsurance products, things like that.
This episode is brought to you by Dealer DMV. In today's climate, you probably find your dealership selling more and more vehicles out of state. More sales, always a good thing, but then comes time to title and register, and everyone knows out-of-state titling is a major headache. It doesn't have to be this way. Our friends at Dealer DMV have created a program called Dealer 50, a revolutionary approach to 50-state titling. With Dealer 50, your dealership now has 24/7 portal access to calculations, pre-filled forms, checklist inquiries, plus white glove processing and specialist support. You can even acquire duplicate titles in all 50 states directly through the Dealer 50 platform. And the best part, it's DMS integrated. Visit dealer50.com, that's DLR50.com to learn more about this game-changing solution from Dealer DMV, or click the link in the show notes below. How did you learn, right, when you mentioned this accounting stuff, and is this just stuff that knowledge you accrued over the years? Did you have a mentor?
Great, dude, seriously, so that's what we need to talk about, because if you're listening to this podcast, you're in the industry, and a handful of you are very much in the industry, right? You're an operator. So what changed for me in 2009 when I started the dealership is I very quickly, 2 years later, I got into a 20 group, right? So 20 group is the fancy word for like a mastermind group or board of directors. So at that time, it was a group called Lead 'em. They had 20 groups. I show up to my first meeting, 20 other dealers, similar size, some bigger. And I'm thinking I got it all figured out because I've been at it for 4 years. And I get slapped right in the face, man, right in the face. What are you doing? What are you charging for a car? You realize you're not going to be in business 5 years from now, right? And I'm like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, run this out, man, run this out. Oh, you're right. Like I'm on a bad trajectory. Like I wasn't taking a discount from those dealers when I was buying the paper. So I was eating all that. I was giving them all the profit. I wasn't marking my cars up enough. I didn't have a reinsurance products. Like so many things you just don't know. And that's the biggest issue, I think, with the used car industry, right? There's how many used car dealers? There's like 150 or something. I don't know, 100 and something thousand in the country. And there's probably like what percentage of those dealers, used car dealers, do you really think care to get better or learn more?
I actually think it's no, I disagree. I think that if given the opportunity, I actually think it would be pretty meaningful. It's just hard to put an exact number. I think that being exposed to the right opportunity is tough. Dealers have a big thing with FOMO, right? So if the dealer down the street's doing it, right, they want to do it. We all know this. So, that's kind of my take on it. But yeah, I mean, clearly there's those ones that don't care. You're going to find that in every type of dealership and industry.
For sure. And so there's about 10% of the used car dealers are members of their national association, right? We only have about 10 to 12,000. Very low. Look at the new car, right? New car
Jeff,
is like,
what's the franchise metric?
Like 100%, right? Like if you're an OEM dealer, you have to be a part of NADA, right? Because that's where they have their franchise meetings. That's where they have their get-togethers are at NADA. So you pretty much have to be a member, from what I understand. Not a new car dealer. Someone can correct me. The used car association, we're so fragmented, right? There's so many dealers that are like, I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't want to stick my head up. If I join the association, then the state AG is going to know I exist and then they're going to come after me. I'm like, no, he knows you exist. He knows you're there. And guess what? He knows because you're not a member of your state or national association, you're probably doing something wrong, right? You're not dotting your I's. You're not crossing your T's. You're not worried about safeguard rules. You don't even know about the New Cars Act. Like, you're not doing the things you're supposed to be doing to run a tight operation from a legal standpoint. Heaven forbid you have no idea on a financial standpoint, right? Like, are you making money? Are you not? Is there a better way? So dealer involvement advocacy it's not what it should be in the used car space.
And I'll tell you another thing though. I think there's also some bias here because a lot of the dealers many of them at least, the dealers that do want to, get better, grow, the more progressive used car dealers, they end up, becoming franchise dealers or doing, in some way kind of evolving in many cases. Start a podcast, right? So if you think about it, right, I think that's another reason why you see just such the kind of variance in the data between the percentage of participation. It's simply because you're always going to have the new entrants, the people that are just trying to make a living that, haven't been in the business, haven't been groomed in the business, right? They're always going to be on the used car side because there's no barriers to entry pretty much. Anyone can enter it. Just get a dealer's license.
Yeah, in a double wide trailer and start slinging cars as a retail dealer. You get your license, you're good to go, and you can run however you want to run. Now, buy here, pay here, obviously, like we know, there's some huge barriers, right? Best way to turn $2 million into $1 million is to start a buy here, pay here. So it's very it's like so much brain damage. I don't know why I do it some days, but yeah, you've just got to raise that bar. And that's the issue you have, that stigma. I mean, talk about it. Buy here, pay here, right? Instant stigma. Oh, you're going to take advantage of you. That's predatory.
The first thing I did was look at your reviews because I wanted to see what am I getting into over here. And you had phenomenal reviews. How? Like, why? How does this happen?
Because we care about every single one of them. Now, it's not perfect, man. I'm selling a 10-year-old car with 150,000 miles. Like, it will blow up. It will. Now, I hope that's not today or tomorrow or the next day or 3 or 12 months from now. But like, I didn't manufacture that Chevy Equinox. I wasn't high and drunk when I decided let's build a Traverse. Like, come on, like some of the worst cars in the world, but yet I'm somehow responsible for this car that it should like never break, never blow up, never have a hiccup. So those things are going to happen. It's how you address them, right? And so, yes, we do get bad reviews. Yes, people aren't happy with us, but we reach out to every single one of them and say, hey, man, what can we do? We can take the car back. We never put money over reputation. You don't like it? Bring it back. Like I'm not going to fight you on that. I don't want to have this kind of relationship. We're going to be seeing each other for 36 months on this car loan. I don't want you to regret it or not be happy to come back and talk to us. So let's part ways now.
Well said. And a reason why you have such good reviews. By the way, who reaches out to the customer? Is that something you do, the GM? Like, talk to me about that.
I used to do it and I had hair back then, and now I stopped because I lost all my hair. My Adrian, my number one guy, and George, my number two, they're just so good with people, man. And that's part of being in this industry. I talk about it so much, is scaling to the point where you can start to add layers of people in between you and the customer, because it's a lot of work and it's super stressful. And yesterday we have a lady in here yelling and screaming about her piece of crap car, and you sold me a lemon and this, and they just want to be heard, right? They want
to be heard. Yes.
Yeah, like sit them down and talk to them and let's figure it out. What happened? Well, you put 30,000 miles on it in a year because you're driving DoorDash. Yeah, your Nissan Cube's not built for that. Like, let's here. So it's just having good people, man. Just good people.
I love it. The Nissan Cube sold a ton. It's so good.
Oh, don't get me started, man. Don't get me started. It's
did you do oil changes? Be honest. Did you do oil changes?
Oh, of course not, man. And we have a forever warranty, and it's like, no, it's not. It doesn't cover everything forever. And actually driving DoorDash and Uber and Lyft, that voids your finance contract. Like, a lot of people don't know that using it for commercial purposes, that's a big no-no.
So what do you do? So what do you do if you want to drive for Uber and Lyft? How do you buy that car?
A lot of people are getting away with it. It's a whole different situation if you disclose that to your finance company, or you need to go through one of Uber or Lyft's finance, because it's different, right? You're depreciating that car 3 times faster than it should be. And I'm cool with it. Let's do it. I'll help you get a car for Lyft, but you need to know it's not going to be a $300 a month payment. It's going to be $900 a month, because you only have a year left before this thing is used up. And that's how, in the buy here, pay here world, especially lease here, pay here, like when you talk to Tim Lawrence from Lease Here, Pay Here Capital, like that's all about an asset. Like this little VIN number that's on the front of that car, I need that thing to go for 36, 48, 52 months with one customer, 2 customers, 3 customers. I don't know how many customers it's going to take, but when I acquire that VIN, I need that sucker to go for 48 months, right? Because it's got to pay me back.
Mm-hmm. Why is 36 months the minimum you target? You mentioned that earlier in the podcast. Why is that the target?
We try to target 30. It's harder now with cost of cars. I definitely say our average is more in that like 36, 38 area. It's interest and time, right? So sure, I could give you a 60-month loan on something, but guess what? With the interest rates that I have to charge you, you're going to pay twice as much in interest as you do for the darn car. And I just can't do that, right? So we find the balance between term, interest rate, and what they can afford, right? Those are kind of the 3 pieces to the puzzle.
But what happens at 36 months? Is that your payback period? Is that your break-even period?
No, 36 is just I don't think the car is going to last any longer than that, and the customer is happy with the car longer than that. So most data shows that the customers, they're done with the car after 24 months. Like they need a new car. They're sick of it. It's starting to have repair stuff. Maybe your miles are getting up higher than they're comfortable with. So we do like to trade people out. I can trade you out at any time. I'll trade you out tomorrow, right? We just want you to be in a car that you love and that you're going to pay every single month like clockwork.
Got it. What's your break-even period on average?
So typically we run like 18 to 19 months, depending on down payment and the affordability. Sometimes we'll drag people out a little bit longer than that, but I say that, and I probably mean closer to like 22 to 24, like just with the affordability issue, down payments. We'll offer a deferral if somebody needs it. They're having a hard time. We typically do a lot of that in December because it's just, dude, I can't make my car payment end by Christmas. So sure, man, payment.
So 18 to 19 months, break even. If you target 36 months, the rest is pretty much you're in the black. It's profitable at that point, as long as the customer keeps it.
Yeah, you could look at it that way. Yeah, you'd say, hey, I need $500 for 18 months. And then I'm going to, hopefully at that point, I'm starting to earn some profit and a little bit of interest by that point, right? Or essentially that's when my profit and interest comes into play for sure.
Oh, yeah. So you mentioned you're selling these cars for average sales price of around $10,000. Where are you finding these cars? I mean, where are you sourcing your vehicles nowadays? That's really difficult to find.
Yeah. I buy 70% of our stuff from Manheim, OBE. I haven't stepped foot in an auction in probably 5 years. I don't like in-lane bidding. If I go down there and I inspect 50 cars, I might have 5 on my buy list. And then out of those 5, everybody else wants those cars too. So I'm bidding against other experts to try to get the car that it's just in-lane. I don't know, man, drives me crazy. So I'm constantly on OBE. I'm constantly on backlots. We do a lot of buying from the public. So we have a whole public outreach.
When you say I'm constantly on backlots, are you referring to like open lane?
Yeah, whatever they call it now. Yeah, just like always on looking at what's for sale.
I wasn't sure if you literally meant. I wasn't sure if you literally meant like on back.
Like in their back lot. We used to buy a lot directly from the new car stores here, and the problem with that is you get what they have, and that to me just doesn't make sense, man. I don't want to just have to take all 5 of these cars because I want the one. I don't want to have to take. So I need a big net because I only have 10 makes and models that I'll buy. Right. I literally, we've narrowed it down to the 10 that we want to mess with and that we think have the best longevity. So I don't need to go down there and take in everything and look at 500 cars on a Friday. Like there's 10 that I might go after. And if it's the right make and model, I'll pay what I have to get it here because I know it's going to run the note.
One of the craziest things about the Car Dealership Guy platform is our direct access to literally thousands of dealership and automotive employees. So naturally, I often hear this question: CDG, can you use your network to help me fill an open role at my company? Well, now I can. Building on the success of my free industry job board, I'm proud to launch CDG Recruiting, a more hands-on white glove automotive recruiting service. Whether you're looking to fill roles in dealership management, C-suite, F&I, fixed ops, auto tech, SaaS, we take the hassle out of hiring by doing the heavy lifting for you. And here's the best part: we vet and screen thousands of candidates so you don't have to. And with our placement guarantee, hiring through CDG Recruiting is 100% worry-free. Our team has decades of experience and has successfully placed over 1,000 roles in the automotive industry. So if you're ready to find your next rockstar employee, try CDG Recruiting today by visiting cdgrecruiting.com or clicking the link in the show notes below. Again, that's cdgrecruiting.com. A bit of a different question, but how has your business changed since the pandemic? And, I looking through some of the notes we had prepared beforehand, right? Obviously high rates, cars are more expensive, repairs are more expensive, delinquencies are rising, charge-offs, right? You're the lender, you are the retailer. What's going through your head nowadays? What are the biggest concerns on your mind when you think about the car industry, the car market, and your business as for the future?
For me, and I would say for all dealers of my size, small 1-2 location guys, the interest, the flooring lines, are going to eat some dealers alive, right? If they haven't already. And a few have, right? They've already been eaten alive by interest on flooring lines, curtailments, flooring lines being pulled, robbing Peter to pay Paul, getting out of covenants with titles, things like that. From our standpoint, I'm pretty safe. I'm at a very, very low leverage on my portfolio. So I can weather some storms. That's the advantage of being a buy here, pay here dealer, right? Like it's going to get rough for us and our delinquencies have gone up. Our voluntary surrenders have gone up. It's hard for customers that go from having 2 jobs or a job and a half, and now they get cut back to 1 job, or they get their hours cut back at the job they had. So things are tighter and everything costs more. So like, dude, what I was making used to cover my bills and now it doesn't. So something's got to give. And a lot of times it's the second car, the third car, maybe downsizing a payment. So that's really 2005, we had a hard time, right? Like there was a lot of like resetting that people had to do. And that was painful for us as a buy here, pay here. It's the ride to the bottom that hurts. It's good at the bottom. I'll be honest, man, like being a buy here, pay here in 08, 2010, it's great. I look forward to when all these banks just get out of the space, man, doing crazy loans to people, that $700 payment on a brand new Mustang to someone that barely makes $1,200 a month. Like we heard the stories during COVID of just crazy car payments happening and these lenders that were just doors wide open, like stop it. So now they're taking their lumps. They're starting to tighten up, right? I think, is that pretty much the consensus that lending is getting harder and harder? Approvals are getting...
Yeah, it's consistently gotten harder over the last 18 months, at the minimum. There was definitely, there were spikes where, lenders tighten faster at different periods, but I would say consistently it's gotten harder. And actually, I would say on the opposite end, there've also been some periods of light loosening in between. I'll just, data and all that stuff is pretty readily available. I post about it all the time. But yes, bottom line, it has gotten tougher. Yes.
It's getting a little tighter. And what happens is that pushes the credit scale down, right? So whereas during COVID and some of the times after, and I mean, our customers were just no scores, like just real tough. But as those banks tighten, it just starts to get, good people with bad credit. Like good people, hey, I had to let a house go. I had to let a car go. I had to let a side-by-side or a boat or a trailer go back to the bank, killed my credit score. And now I got to come to you guys, right? I got to get out of that $800 payment and I need to come to you guys and get a 2015 Honda Accord for $400 a month, right? So there's a bit of humbling, but for us, it's really good when it kind of hits the bottom and you've got good people that just want to get their scores and get back on track.
That's a very interesting observation. So you're saying traditionally people that maybe have higher income suddenly and maybe better credit have gone through this, shocking, just catastrophic life event. And so they're coming to you, as opposed to the really bottom of the barrel customer who's, buy your pay your whole life. They're not going to pay you back. And you're just going to be an instant repo. Yeah.
You definitely have the people that are just kind of looking to take advantage of the next place and kind of, and those are the hard ones. You want to be comfortable. And, we talk about stability, ability, and character, right? They got to be stable in their location. For me, it has to be stable in my community, right? I can't be chasing cars across the country. It just changes the economics of a repo. They've got to have the ability, which is the income, right? We try to keep a 20% payment PTI. And then they got to have the character, right? Like, is this someone who is just down, needs help, and is so grateful that they're getting a car? Or is this someone who maybe feels entitled, thinks this thing's never going to break, thinks we should fix everything, and those ones we try to kind of, do a character interview and just make sure we're making good loans to good people.
The SAC, the SAC.
The SNAD, yeah.
You like that? So what, do you actually reject customers? Like, what does that look like? And how do you reject them? What do you tell them?
Everyone's absolutely approved. We have a scoring model that we subscribe to, and it's just higher down payment. It's just a higher risk.
Higher down payment.
Risk is higher. You have a higher down payment. Cash in deal, risk on the road. So we'll put anyone in a car. You might need 99% down.
At your price point, do you even touch EVs? Is that like a thing for you at all?
I love them. I'm a big Tesla fan, right? I drive one. I'll always drive one. The best commuter car there is. I'm not taking on a road trip though. Whatever. I don't like charging. But I've done a couple of Tesla buy here, pay here's, with the $4,000 tax credit, the Model 3, tax time, big down payments come in, with the tax, child tax credit and such. So you put the $4,000 tax credit along with a $3,000 or $4,000 down payment from your tax returns, $8,000 down on a Tesla that's, those Model 3s for a while were, 20,000-ish area with 80 or 90,000 miles. So we've done a couple of buy here, pay here on EVs. I would love it. I would do them all. Man, Tesla's low cost of ownership, no maintenance, cheaper to drive. The battery thing is freaking scare tactic. I know look at the data. The batteries aren't failing like everyone thinks they're going to fail. So, and we do the EV tax credit. We've done a ton of those for our customers. So Chevy Bolts with a V, I buy every single one I can put my hands on. Hopefully nobody that's a dealer listens to this because the prices just keep going up because everyone else is buying them now too. But you buy a Chevy Volt for $5,000, and you get 30% as an EV tax credit when you go to sell it. It just helps the customer have a little more down payment, more skin in the game on some of those.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you floor your vehicles? Who do you use?
Cash for me. Yeah, we've gotten to the point where it's all cash.
Yeah. Did you use were you financing through another floor plan lender prior?
No, so I started this out we go back to the beginning of the podcast. It was a loan for my grandma, and she gave us some money to get started. And so we use our own money and then we've grown it. Had a little bank line of credit that I get paid off next month, actually. but yeah, I've got $1 million tied up in inventory. Probably not the best use of my money. We talk about that on
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm actually curious, what's the return profile here? So a traditional used car dealership is going to net anywhere between 5 to 12%, I would say, based on what I've seen out there, right? The leaner used car dealer, smaller typically is going to be in like even 10, maybe 10 to 15% net. So that's net to sales, net income on actual sales. I'm curious to know how you view your business. If you're not netting that 5% or not accounting for it on the retail side, right? What are the economics of the lending business?
To give you a straightforward, and I think it's a pretty rough number, if you take out obviously taxes, and then owner's compensation, I think I'd have to look. The industry benchmark might be in that like 15%, give or take 5%, somewhere in that area. If you factor in a buy here, pay here operation, after your charge offs, we run heavier, man. I've got 12 employees here, right? Like it takes a lot more because I got to have a full shop. I got to have collectors. I got to have title clerk. I got to have a lot more as a buy here, pay here than your typical retail operation would have, right? To sell the same amount of cars. So it's a lot more headache. And then obviously you deal with a lot more on the repo side of it too.
Yeah. But it seems like the juice is worth the squeeze though, because you do have a better margin than a traditional retailer.
You have a slightly better margin up front. You're going to have a higher interest rate that you're trying to make interest on, which is almost going to just cancel out your charge-offs. But also in the end of the day, I've got a portfolio to sell, right? So when I decide to hit the road and go fish by a lake or something, like I can liquidate the portfolio, I can sell it, I can collect it out, I can, do all sorts of stuff and then hopefully bring that back in as kind of retirement. Or
what's your portfolio look like right now?
So we're just flirting with 6 million. It's been a slow growth, man. You go back and look at some of these guys that have done it. They've done it. They go big, big leverage, big risk. I'm going to take out a lot of debt. I'm going to grow and get aggressive. I've not been that person, and I've siphoned off a lot of money for real estate stuff and things like that. So definitely grown slower than I would like to, if that's,
you have an awesome business, man.
As fast as I would like to, but definitely like, all right, you start getting my age and I'm like, okay, what's this next phase look like? When am I done pulling freaking adult toys out of repos and like driving up mountains to like recover my loaner car that got freaking rolled off a cliff? Like when am I going to be done with that? I don't know.
Do you do it all in-house, all recoveries? You have your own drivers, everything's done in-house?
No, hire out all our repos. Yeah. Liability, everything. We used to. I mean, back in the day when I was a single guy, sure, me and my buddies would get together with a handful of keys and we'd go freaking track the GPSs and roll up and snag cars and not.
I can't say I haven't been there at some point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
I've made those. I've made those trips, but I wasn't the driver. I was too young for that. I was the passenger, and I wasn't too comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. The great thing about buy here, pay here is I know all these customers. They know me. So when I show up at their doorstep, it's not like, oh, he's trying to steal my car. It's like, yeah, you found me, or yeah, you're right. I've been lying to you. 3 months.
It's a good game.
Yeah. It's like cat and mouse. I'm like, hey, buddy, caught you. So they know we give them every opportunity, man. Every opportunity to get current and get paid. I don't want the car. Man. That's what the misconception of the buy here, pay here industry is. Oh, well, you just want to repo that and sell it again. It's like, no, I repo it. I lose $5,000 on every repo. Why would I want to repo that car? I want you to pay for it. Guess what? Now I got to go fix it, clean it, and then I got to pay my guys to resell it to the exact same person that I just sold it to. Like, no, I just want you to keep it. So a bit of a different topic here now. You started a podcast 5 years ago, the Independent Dealer Podcast. Tell us about that. Why did you start it? Why get into media when I would say even before it was cool to do podcasting? Like, why? Yeah, man. I had a face for radio, so I knew that was my only hope. YouTube came along, kind of has ruined that. But back in the day, I just said, man, I want to learn more. I want to continue to learn. I love audio learning. It's so passive. I do it while we drive back and forth to the auction, right? So I was like, dealers, we just need more tactical on the ground education of just, dude, I want to know how you did it. I want to know how you got there. I want to know what kind of vendors you're using. I want to know what new vendors are offering. I want to know where you went wrong, man. Like the stories of how dealers got burnt or blew up, like that to me is so valuable. So this gives me the opportunity to have those conversations. I reached out to another dealer buddy of mine from South Carolina through one of our Facebook groups and just said, hey man, do you want to do this? And he's like, who the crap are you, man? Sure, let's try it out. So we've done it. We've been consistent every week for 5 years. But it's just for fun, man. There's no production value. There's no marketing. There's no outreach, but we have a loyal group of dealers that very, very high funnel. And that's what I say, man. Like we're talking to the decision makers. This podcast, it's not for salesmen. It's not for, people that want to buy a car. We're not telling you the top 5 secrets to get the most for your trade-in. Like that's not what we do. It's very nuts and bolts.
Yeah. Very, very dealer focused. And I should also add, you also attend like 5 to 6 dealer conventions each year as an educator or moderator. It just seems like you have a knack for giving back, for educating, right? Like sharing knowledge, which I can definitely empathize with that because, I feel the same way. I like sharing knowledge in different ways, but what do you do? What's your thought there? Like, why do you attend so many conventions and what's the purpose for you?
It's the same thing, man. It's just rubbing shoulders with dealers that have been there, dealers that I want to be like, getting motivated. I mean, you can't go to one of those things and not come home with fire to just be better, tighten things up a little bit, stay passionate about the industry. It's hard, man. I mean, this industry beats on you. It's tough, but so we love that. And we love helping new dealers, like if you're new to the industry and you're trying to reinvent the wheel, like just don't, like it's been done. And the used car industry it's unique in that we're not competitive, man. If you wanted to open a dealership, I would give you everything because you're in Texas or Florida or somewhere. Like I don't have to worry about you taking my customers, right? I might be a little more protective about the guy down the street. Like I'm not going to tell you all my best marketing tactics on Facebook, but for the most part, man, we don't compete with each other, so we can just share openly. And conventions it's a great time to rub shoulders, get educated. I'm waiting for the CDG convention to happen. I don't know if that's in the works.
There's something in the works. And if you're listening to this, so there's something very fun in the works. And so it's going to be during NADA, the convention this year in New Orleans.
Don't piggyback. Do your own, man. You've got the clout, and
not a convention. I'm more a party type of guy.
So. I see how it is.
I do enough educating, and I do enough, knowledge sharing on a day-to-day basis. And so, I like to party and get down a little bit as well. So we're definitely not doing the convention route at this point.
Oh man, I'll talk you into it someday. Your network of vendors and educators and people, if you brought them together in a 2-day workshop seminar, dude, I would sit in Russ Flips Whips. If I could sit in a class with him for an hour and a half and have him tactically teach me how to make a better video or post a better, like it's huge.
You know what, Jeff? It's so much. There's so much time in a day. Right now, one person I spoke with the other day said, like, you're a buffet, right? There's so many things we could do. And it's really important that, most companies don't die from growing too slowly, but some companies die from indigestion, and, growing too quickly. And so I'm giving you a very hyperbolic, like extreme, analogy here. But the point I'm trying to make is I'd rather grow very methodically and do things with a strong foundation. We really focus on everything we do is cash flow positive, right? I'm sharing with you very candidly behind the scenes right now. Like we're not playing the losing money game, right? We're very thoughtful because we want to be here for decades to come. I want this to be the last place I ever work at. And for that to happen, we have to grow in a very smart, methodical way and ask ourselves, where can we solve problems for the industry? And so we started out with our media business content. We evolved into a job board because that's what the market needed and wanted. We evolved from there into a recruiting business because some people needed more than just a job board. And I can promise you there's a lot of other really great stuff to come that we're already in talks with. It's really so exciting. And I mean that. I should also add that if you're listening to the pod and you've made it to this point, I'm going to offer a little Easter egg and say that we are going to host a private party at NADA this year. So it's going to be a private party. It's sponsored by Triple Net Pro. So a great partner of ours, Triple Net Pro. They do dealership leasebacks, real estate leasebacks. And it's going to be, a great event. So again, if you've made it this far, I respect you because you're a loyal listener. And shoot me a note. Let's see what we can do. There is, candidly, we're not going to be able to accommodate everyone. Because our audience is pretty large, and as much as I'd love to, maybe in the future we can get bigger venues and invest more money. But for this one, shoot us a note. We'll get you added to the wait list, and we have a very great plan and party in the works. So I'm super excited about this. So there's the Easter egg attached to the Jeff Watson podcast, and
great. Mention my name,
we'll leave it at that. I love it. Hey Jeff, one more thing I want to ask you before we wrap up, but what's next for you? Because I did notice you have 2 locations. And so you've built a really nice business. Seems very formidable. But what's next? What's in your mind?
Dude, I don't know, man. I'm like you, Yossi. It's there's so many things that would be interesting, and it is hard to beat what I do, right? I mean, if you look at any other venture, or if I look at getting into even real estate or opening a second location or doing any of these things, the trade-off of stress and headache to growth is just something that I really, really like. I have a hard time with now. Things are good, but any dealer can make a great living selling 40 to 50 cars a month. You're big enough to have layers of management in between you and customers. I can take as much time off as I want because I've got great guys here. So to say I'm going to step out and do something bigger, better, more of a hassle, oh man, yeah, it just doesn't seem like the payoff's there. So really my focus right now is like giving back to the industry, doing the podcast, going and speaking at conventions, having phone calls with dealers that want to chat and try to figure out their problems, seeing if I can add some sort of insight to them that will help them break through something. I don't have all the answers, but I know somebody who does have the answers, right? That's the biggest thing. Like, the network of dealers that have been there and done that.
What you just said is a huge lesson for life, right? You don't have all the answers, but you know someone. And if you don't, you got to find them, because everything is a people problem. I've learned, right? If you can't figure it out, you don't have the right person. There's, the good old saying that we've all heard, but it's true, right? Your net worth is your network, right? You got to know people and you'll find those answers. So, which is again, why I love doing this so much, because you just get to have these conversations with people and learn so much. So, Jeff Watson, man, this was amazing. Seriously. Thanks for coming on. I'm glad we made this happen. It's been a while, but we got it done. Any closing thoughts, any questions for me before we wrap up?
My wrap up is keep doing what you're doing, man. Like, I definitely respect you, and I didn't want to respect you in the beginning because of the thing.
My man, I love it. I love it.
So many come through, and we've got buddies ancillary to the industry that are like, this. And it's like, dude, you've never ran a dealership. You've never been in it to whatever degree you say you might've been, but like, you're just not authentic, and you're not asking the questions we want to ask and get the answers we need from the people you have access to, man. You've got a name. You get on the phone with the CEO of this place and the CFO of that place, and you get them in your podcast. You have the ability to ask those questions that a guy like me, I can't get in there to ask, So I really, really appreciate you do that. You hold them to it. Like, I consume a lot of stuff, like you said, podcasts and things like that. There's very few that I don't want, that I just can't miss.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. I really do. That gives me energy. And motivates me. So thank you so much. And thanks for coming on. And dude, we'll have to do this again at some point, because this was awesome. All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.